When we're dealing with the empire, we run into a power issue. Think about it this way. In the United States, which is basically a republic, if I want to become president, there's a lot of people that I have to go through. If I want to do it quickly, there's a lot of people I have to off, as it were. You have the cabinet, the Senate, presidents, etc. In a empire, that changes because those people don't matter anymore. Now you have one person who has power, as the emperor. And if someone wants to rise up against them, or a group of people, they can and easily overpower one person. Which means the imagery is going to change. We need to see the emperor as a figure that no one really wants to fight, that no one really wants to try and conquer. And we're going to see images of the emperor throughout the territory, throughout the empire. These would be put later on, not under Augustus, but later on, these are put in temples. Otherwise, under Augustus, they're put in marketplaces, public spaces. Remember, you would have hundreds of sculptures, public sculptures in any area in Rome. They're very, very common, and they serve as visual propaganda. And we see him in different guises. For example, as high priest, or as a general, magistrate, or general or warrior. Role-playing then is not uncommon with the masses. He would come out and speak, if he was going to speak publicly, in different, effectively costumes, depending on what role he was taking on at the time. And this idea is borrowed from ancient Greece. In terms of the pose, you'll notice that raised hand, that gesture of oration, the rest based entirely on Polycleitus's spear bearer. And the whole sculpture would have been painted. But we have that gesture of oration being used, giving us a sense of someone who is capable of public speaking, which is held in high esteem in ancient Rome. This would remind people of the prosperity that he bestowed upon the empire. And we see this youthful sort of head of state. He's always idealized, never ages, and godlike. He's actually barefoot, which generally indicates a living god. This is Caesar very much deified. And you sit there and you go, wait a minute, didn't you talk about humble farmer soldier? How is this allowed? This was done for his family, probably for his widow after his death. This was not a public sculpture at the time, so they can get away with some things that they wouldn't have done in public sculpture. But the public sculptures are frequently destroyed for a wide variety of reasons after the emperors die. Oftentimes because another emperor has come in, and so we're just going to replace the old sculptures. And we have a lot going on here. In the corner, we have possibly the world's ugliest dolphin. And we have Cupid. So Cupid is there because Cupid is the son of Venus. And the Julio-Claudians, of which Caesar Augustus is a member, that's the family of these first emperors, believe that their family lineage goes back to Venus, a goddess, hence the dolphin and the Cupid. So there's a little closer image of our Cupid figure. And by the way, fairly naturalistic baby for the time period. This is going to be unusual, especially when we get into the medieval. The cuirass, or the armor that he's wearing, shows a military victory, in this case the Parthians returning captured Roman standards. How are they? Well, first of all, what are the standards? They're like battle flags for specific units. These were captured when Crassus goes off and decides to try and be a general, having never been a general, Crassus being the wealthiest man alive at the time, because he would basically see that your house is on fire. He would show up with the fire department. He basically owned the fire department. And he would go, hey, you know what? I can put that out and get your belongings back, but I need to buy the property at, let's say, fire sale prices. And so he does, and he becomes stupidly wealthy. Well, as part of the first triumvirate, he also wants to be a general. So he goes off, he tries to fight the Parthians, they lose badly. And there's a legend that the Parthian king kills him by pouring gold down his throat. So that's where the standards are lost, and then they are returned under Augustus. And then he's barefoot. Now, the only people allowed to be barefoot typically, or depicted barefoot, are going to be heroes or living gods. Now, Augustus is not a god when he's alive. The Senate will bestow upon him the honor of becoming a god after he dies. And so that's important to keep in mind, and this is sculpted after his death. But it does get across a sense of the propaganda necessary in these situations. You always want to show the emperor as young and fit. You wouldn't want to show him as 70 or 80 years old and decrepit, sitting on a bed or something like that. That wouldn't have the same power. And in an empire, you need the person in power to seem like they are very physically powerful. It also becomes a visual metaphor for the power of Augustus and the Roman state because he represents the Roman state.